Greetings, it's Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. Today I want to talk about the documentary that was on ITV the other night, Britain's Most Notorious Prisons, and it dealt with Strangeways. I've just watched it now. My wife recorded it for me on one of them boxes that you've got, you know. Anyway, basically, it seemed fairly factual. I mean, there were a number of completely inconsistent accounts of what was going on in the jail. There was one particular former officer there, no names, no pack drill, who was saying that in all his time there, in an absolute honesty, he never saw any inmates being mistreated. Come on. I mean, I was there. They were kicking him up and down the landings. They were pissing in the soup. They had a block down there called D1, the block. Yeah? I went down there one day. They booted this fella's teeth out. He was covered in boot polish. They hadn't smeared it on him. They'd kicked him so hard with the boots that the polish on the boots had embedded itself into his body. I remember getting the senior medical officer to have a look at him. The senior medical officer said to me, "Why are you wasting my time, Mr. Sutton? There's nothing wrong with this man." Eh? The guy's teeth are kicked out. You know, he's bleeding all over the place. He's got lumps missing. You can't see anything. You see, the problem was that was the way they did it at Strangeways. Strangeways in Strangeways. Yeah. Now they were talking. You saw Alan Lord on there. Name check there for Alan Lord, because Alan Lord was one of the guys who was behind the initial riot, parading up and down on the roof. Yeah, we all saw him, big fella, rightfully complaining about being mistreated by staff. I mean, I was there and I couldn't quite fathom what they were on about with this National Front thing. That was another thing the officer mentioned, the former officer who was interviewed. He said he saw that there was a minority of staff who had associations with the National Front. A minority? Yeah. The chairman of the Prison Officers Association at Strangeways was also the leader of the North West National Front. There was a movement in Strangeways. They had a bloody library full of books denying the Holocaust, racisms, about the Aryan race being, and white power and all that nonsense. That's what they do going on at Strangeways in the 70s and 80s. Seriously, I went to a National Front meeting on behalf of the Labour Deputy Prime Minister Eric Heffer. Asked me to check up on the National Front at Strangeways. So I went to one of their meetings, and it was being addressed, believe it or not, by a member, the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, a man called David Duke. He was addressing the meeting, and he was being escorted there and actually staying in the house of the chairman of the National Front and the chairman of the Strangeways Prison Officers Association, a man called Brian Baldwin. Brian Baldwin's a raving racist. I wrote all this up, sent it to Eric Heffer, sent it to the Jewish Gazette, contacted people I knew in the press, and it was all over the national press. What did the Home Office do? What did they do? I'll tell you what they did. They promoted Brian Baldwin to governor and put him in charge of race relations for the northwest of England. That's what the Home Office thinks about race relations, eh? And don't tell me they didn't know that Brian Baldwin was the leader of the National Front. Of course they did. I'd put it all over the press. I sent it to Eric Heffer, who was a senior politician at the time, an extreme left-wing politician, of course. He was the Member of Parliament for Walton, Liverpool. This is in about 1978, 79, round about that era. Anyway, the programme last night on Strangeways, it did touch on a number of subjects about the massive growth in the population of the prisons. I mean, when I was in 1976, 77, I was there at the Scrubs then, and the population of the prison system was about 38,000. It's now bordering on 100,000, and as the programme rightly said, we have the highest per capita rate of imprisonment in Europe. How disgraceful is that? And listen, the majority of people who are in prison are socially inadequate. They can't read, they can't write, they're innumerate, they can't survive in society, so what do? They go out and indulge themselves in petty theft, because they can't earn any better. They won't be able to get work properly because the school system has let them down. Seriously let them down. I mean, they have a system, I call it de-schooling, yeah? Where if they think you're not going to make it, they just leave you alone. Seriously. I detested the school system when I was at school. There was a big fat bully at school, a great big fella, grabbed me, bent me over a desk, and walloped me with a big rubber slipper. Seriously, a big rubber slipper, beat the 10 bells out of me with this. Big bastard. Name, Colin Welland. Yeah? Real name, Edward Williams. He was Colin Welland as a playwright, and he won an Oscar for writing the screenplay for a film called Chariots of Fire. He was originally a teacher at Manchester Road School in Leigh, and he was an enormous big fat bully, probably about 18 stone and about 6 foot, big wobbly bastard. You must have seen him. He was in Z-Cars for a while, this PC fan, I don't know, anyway, he was one of the, alongside Brian Blessed. That's when policemen look like that, yeah? They don't look like that now, do they? Look like your sister's best friend. Seriously, yeah. And you can't get them to do anything these days. Oh, they'll do you for parking, do you for doing 33 miles an hour in a 30 zone, or 22 miles an hour in a 20. Well, they'll definitely be on your case there. Coming to your burglaries, I have my house burgled. Yeah, do you know what they say? Seriously, this is not just the truth. The police will speak to you on the phone. Have you got any witnesses? No, I was in bed asleep. Have you got any CCTV footage? No, I haven't got a CCTV camera. No witnesses, no CCTV footage. We'll give you a crime number, and that's it. That's it, they don't even bother attending. That's what's happened to the police these days. I mean, back in the day when my dad was an inspector, they'd go around the pubs and ask questions. Who's been doing these burglaries, you know? Having a drink with the lads, and they'd say, oh, it's that silly bastard up from Plonk Lawn, that knows. That's how they spoke at Leigh, actually. Plonk Lawn being Plank Lane. And so they'd find out who'd been doing it, go around their house, do a search, they'd find what was been stolen, or else it had been hawked round the pubs, and so they'd take them in, put them in the cells. This is before the Police and Criminal Evidence Act of 1983, or 82, I think. That's when you put them in the cells and said, right, thanks for your confession. I said, what confession? You know, this one that you've just signed. That's it, yeah. That's how the police used to operate. They knew who'd done it, so they made sure that they pleaded guilty, whether they wanted to or not. Anyway, time's passing. More civilised days now. We've got 100,000 people in prison. They're getting banged up 23 hours a day. And as for that programme on Strangeways, well, it was entertaining. Showed a lot of the old footage from the documentary filmed in 1979. That's still available. It's on. There's an extract of it on my channel. It's called Strangeways, and the director was Rex Bloomstein. Filmed in 1979. You can see me in there. I'm the officer that tried to start a blue-collar trade union on the argument that you couldn't possibly have senior management running your union. You couldn't. How can you? But they did. The Prison Officers Association was run by chief officers and principal officers. not by the basic grade officers. Basic grade officers did what they told them. The problem was, if you went to your line manager and said you didn't want, you disagreed with certain duties that you were being given or whatever other complaint you had, like you didn't want to work weekends or anything, they'd say, oh, I'll go and see the union. You went to see the union? Who was the union? Your line manager. Seriously. That's what I said, you can't have that. Anyway, the staff didn't want to listen to me. I told them which way it was going. You watch that documentary, you see me, I was standing up there. I said, listen, the Home Office are using you and me and all the junior prison staff as mugs. They're just throwing the people into the jails, and we're being responsible for them. They put people, 2,000 people into Strangeways, built for 900, 200 years ago nearly. What kind of a carry-on's that? I mean, in my personal opinion is that it should be demolished. Leave the front gate, the front gate, and probably the tower, and turn it into a museum. But knock all the rest down, all the cells, smash them up, throw them away. Too much suffering there. Disgraceful, horrible dump. And as for that prison officer said he never saw anything, he was a perpetrator. A perpetrator. If anybody of you knows him, just ask him. John Sutton says, what's this about the food-free diets? Ask him about that, eh? Never saw any intimidation or mistreatment of prisoners. You wouldn't see it if you got your head stuffed up your own arse, would you? And that bit in the club. Staff used to go in the club and get pissed at dinner time, then come back on. Hey, and they weren't getting pissed on their own. The governor was in there with them. In that documentary last night, you could see him in there. That was filmed in 1979. Norman Brown pouring himself a beer, necking it at the bar. He'd come back in half cut, go into his office and fall asleep. One day, it's God's honest truth, he went to his office. It was bloody freezing cold, about end of January. I think it was 1981. He had one of these gas fires, he lit that, a Cala gas fire, lit that, pulled the curtains to, got in his chair, fell asleep. Unfortunately for Norman Brown, he'd drawn the curtains over the top of the gas fire. They caught fire, office in flames. He come running down into the records office where I was working, directly opposite his office, downstairs in the dungeons. You maniac, Sutton is shouting, you've set fire to my office. Have you seen what he was covered in? Sutton, pissed out of his head. Blaming me, eh? I hadn't done anything. I'd been down in the records office. I had 2 staff working with me. They swore that I never left the office. I wouldn't do that anyway. Right, it's that time of day. It's a treat now for all you Yorkshiremen. Yeah, I know you can't sing. Unless you sing, on Ilkley Moor Bartat, on Ilkley Moor Bartat, on Ilkley Moor Bartat. That wasn't singing anyway, so you'd be safe with that, because you're used to hearing that, aren't you? The Goat Herds of Rotherham. I'll have to write you a poem, won't I? That's the song dinger, by the way. You've been warned. Final warning. Yes, right, here we go. And I thought I'd sing this because it's to commemorate the documentary last night. The documentary I was in 1979. I did one a bit back as well about the use of Largactual forcibly injecting inmates with psychotropic drugs. I used to do that myself. I had my hands up. I did it. I was ordered to do it. Hold the inmate down and pump them. The upper outer quadrant of the right buttock. Yeah, that's where you pumped it in. That was the usual target anyway. I mean, if they were fighting like Billy, or you'd just stick it anywhere you could. Yeah, as long as it wasn't in your own leg. Seriously. Here we go. This is by Mike Harding. This is Strangeways Hotel. Last Saturday night I got into a fight, and I woke up on Wednesday in an heck of a fright. 'Cause the judge said, young fella, you're going for a spell. 6 months hard labour in the Strangeways Hotel. Hello, hey up, I can tell. There's no place on earth like the Strangeways Hotel. It's porridge each morning, it's strong and it's thick. It clogs up the drains and puts lumps on your elbows. How do they make more when one lot's all spent? It's 2 loads of sand and 1 of cement. Tooraloo, hey up, I can tell. There's no place on earth like the Strangeways Hotel. It's fish every Friday, it's fish 2 foot wide. Covers up your plate and hangs over the side. You can tell that it's Friday just by the smell, 'cause the fish have all done time in the Strangeways Hotel. Tooraloo, way up, I can tell. There's no place on earth like the Strangeways Hotel. Well, we don't sleep like tops and we don't sleep like logs, 'cause the bed bugs have feet like colliers' clogs, and they bite and they pinch and they wrestle you as well. Then they kick you out of bed in the Strangeways Hotel. Tooraloo, hey up, I can tell. No, there's no place on earth like the Strangeways Hotel. There you go. That was Strangeways Hotel, written by Mike Harding and misperformed by John G. Sutton. Seriously, hope you enjoyed this little broadcast. If you get a chance to watch that documentary that was on ITV, do watch it. Next week it's His Majesty's Prison, Wormwood Scrubs. I was there too. I served at the Scrubs for just around about 18 months. They also make a statement that the Krays were in the Scrubs. No, the Krays were in Brixton. I never saw them in the Scrubs, and I was there. They were in Brixton, and then they were in Broadmoor. I think they did some in Wandsworth as well, but I didn't see them at the Scrubs. Anyway, do have a look at my book. It's out there on Amazon. HMP Manchester Prison Officer. Tells it as it was. Bye now.